Welcome back to Sam and Ham. This is Ham, and today we're going to be doing another Homebrew review. The subclass we're going to be looking at today is called the Way of the Weave, a subclass for monks. And if you've read the title, you can probably guess what this is trying to emulate, and it is a Jedi-themed subclass. This subclass was made by Winking Wizard 94 on Reddit. I've got a link down to the Reddit thread and the creator's stuff in the description. But with all that out of the way, let's dive into this thing and just see what we can do. The first thing you get at level 3 is Spellcasting. You get to be a third caster, just kind of like an Eldritch Knight or a Arcane Trickster. But just like both of those classes, you have some limitations in the spells you're allowed to learn. While they do come from the wizard spell list, they have to be from either divination or transmutation schools, except for a few that you get at certain levels, again, exactly just like an Eldritch Knight or an Arcane Trickster. The wizard spell list is a very powerful spell list, and having divination and transmutation available to you gives you a lot of good, useful out-of-combat stuff, so this is where a lot of your utility is going to be coming from in this subclass. You'll be lacking a little bit of the extra damage that you would normally get from spellcasting, because you don't get evocation or any of the other big damage-dealing schools, but monks have plenty of damage as it is. You're still a full-fledged monk. You can punch something to death if you want. Of course, you do use wisdom for your spellcasting, you get some cantrips available to you, and you actually get True Strike as the one that you are required to learn. Kind of like Mage Hand for the Arcane Trickster. Table is on screen for the spell slots, spells known, and cantrips, but again, this follows pretty much just the exact same as the Arcane Trickster and Eldritch Knight. This part isn't exactly breaking any new ground. Well, I guess it is for Monk, but the groundwork has been laid by other classes. Their other level 3 ability is called Foreseen Fighting, and just kind of like Mage Hand Ledgermane for the Arcane Trickster, because they are forced to get True Strike at level 3, they get to do it as a bonus action and without needing to maintain concentration. While that normally would sound really strong, because getting advantage as a bonus action is a pretty good ability, you gotta remember this is as a monk, and they have a lot of abilities competing for those bonus actions, so honestly I think this is pretty fine. Monks are very much a class that likes to get a lot of little hits in rather than one big hit, so I don't think getting advantage once per turn like that is all that strong. At level 6 then, you get Arcane Forging. You get to make a lightsaber. You perform a ritual over the course of an hour, which can be done as part of a short rest. The weapon must be within your reach throughout the ritual, and at the conclusion of which, you touch the weapon and transform it. As a part of this transformation, the weapon's damage type becomes Force, and you can use it as a spellcasting focus for your Way of the Weave spells. At level 11, you get Flowing Defense. You can use your reaction to deflect or catch a spell when you're hit by a ranged spell attack. If the spell has multiple ranged spell attacks, you can only deflect or catch one of them. When you do so, the damage you take from the attack is reduced by a d10 plus your wisdom modifier plus your monk level. If you reduce the damage to 0, you can seize control of the spell if you have at least one hand free. If you seize the control of the spell in that way, you can spend 1 key point per level of the spell seized to make a ranged spell attack with the spell as part of the same reaction. This spell counts as a Way of the Weave spell for the attack. I think this part's really cool. It's just kind of like deflecting arrows, but with magic. I think that's super neat.
I'm thinking this is more Way of the Weeb. Now that I'm hearing it.
I can see it. I think this ability is really balanced out by the fact that it only reduces such a low damage number. So you're not going to be out here reflecting disintegrates. And because it requires a ranged spell attack, you're not going to be reflecting lightning bolts, even if you could get a high enough roll to do so. When you get this ability, you can reduce it by, well, if you get a lucky roll of 10, plus your wisdom modifier, which, let's be generous and say plus 5, plus your monk level is 11. So it's potentially redirecting 26 damage, which is good, don't get me wrong, but that's taken also quite a few key. I think the bigger part is just being able to catch spells, being able to catch an Eldritch Blast a turn. That ain't bad. I know monks can definitely start to suffer a little bit from the glass cannon status when you get to higher levels, so I think this is a welcome defensive ability at higher levels. And their last ability is Master of Mind and Spirit. At 17th level, your connection to the Weave grants you power to freely shape or form your key into spells. You can use your key points to gain additional spell slots. You can transform key as a bonus action on your turn. It shows you the cost on the table below. The created spell slots vanish at the end of a short or long rest. Because they vanish, there is no stockpiling crazy amounts of spell slots because you can't get key back that fast. While this could certainly be a kind of strong ability, at 17th level you're going to have 17 key. If you really wanted to, you could get, 8 more first level spell slots, 3 more third level spell slots, any combination therein, but because you're a monk and ki fuels pretty much everything you do, I don't think you're going to want to. I think this one's going to be mostly useful for, oh crap, I really needed to cast another 3rd level spell and I don't have one. Quickly bonus action, get rid of 5 ki, and you're good. While I've never seen a monk in action at this high of a level, I imagine at this point you're struggling to run through your ki faster than you can use it. You're still only using 1 point of ki for every flurry of blows or patient defense or what have you. So having something where you can really burn through your reserves quickly, I think is a really big power boost that high level monks could definitely use. And I don't think reviewing this subclass would really be complete without at least glancing at some of the spells that these guys would be able to cast. So let's just take a look at some of these real quick. First off, I gotta love Detect Magic and Jump as 1st level spells. They're not super, well, Detect Magic's really useful. Jump, less so, but really cool for the guy who's trying to be a Jedi. Same with Longstrider, Featherfall. Even though Featherfall's a little bit wasted on a monk because they already have a similar ability, but still pretty neat. Get a little bit higher level, you get Detect Thoughts. That's super cool as a different Jedi ability. Levitate, in case you need to get higher off the ground, and Magic Weapon is also a very good spell. Though again, as a bonus action, so only so much you can do with it. Though, I gotta say, probably my favorite would be Maximilian's Earthen Grasp. Getting a little bit higher into the levels, just the ability to get haste and fly on a monk is super cool. That's even more mobility, and even more damage if you really need it. Here you get a little bit of added utility with Tongue's Water Breathing, both very good spells to help buff you up in those, out of combat situations. And at the super high levels, you get Polymorph, which is always an amazing spell. But that brings us to the end of the Way of the Weave. I think this subclass is pretty darn cool. I like that they kind of went for a Jedi feel without being, completely blatant about what they were doing. They were in the comments, don't get me wrong, but you could read this document and maybe not get it. You might not understand immediately, realizing that this was a Jedi thing, and I think that subtlety is much needed in some subclasses like this, because you definitely read a couple of subclasses and go, wow, you watch a lot of anime. So thank you again to Winking Wizard 94 for making this subclass. It's been a good read, and I would definitely allow any of my players to play this. My only kind of downside with it is there's not a whole lot of groundbreaking stuff here. It's a 3rd caster, like the Arcane Trickster or the Eldritch Knight, but it's a monk this time, which is cool. I'm glad somebody's done it. Surprisingly, I haven't run into one of these in all of my homebrew reading, so maybe this is more of an original idea than I thought it was. But that's the big feature they get here. Other than that, they get the True Strike thing. That's kind of handy. Arcane Forging, that's cool. It makes your damage type force, which just makes it a little bit harder to resist. The Flowing Defense, I think, is super neat. Honestly, probably the most unique part of the subclass. Probably my favorite, to be honest. And as Master of Mind and Spirit just lets you make spell slots really quick, which I don't think any other 3rd caster has access to, but it's just kind of similar to what a sorcerer can do with his sorcerer points. But that's all I have to say today. Links to Winking Wizard's Reddit thread in the description. Thank you all for watching, and you all have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.